believe you too. All right, well, welcome. Please take your seats. Let's get started. We got a good program today. What? I don't think so. Am I? No. Good. I'm not. Yeah, wasn't I? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, to start with, do we have any new members? Good. I'm going to hand you the microphone. You can introduce yourself. Yeah, cool. There you go.
Hi, my name is Will. I graduate from here in 3 weeks with my Bachelor's of Electrical Engineering. Kind of got interested in this hobby talking to a coworker at Salt Lake County, so this is my first time here and been curious about it. So
cool. Good. Welcome. Anybody else here for the first time? No more new people? Okay, how about upgrades? Do we have any upgrades? Come on. Do some upgrades, people. Okay, no upgrades. Rick, tell us what's going on in the bookstore. I'm coming. It's getting hard for me to make these steps.
It's the only exercise you get, right? So, well, we still have 4 titles here that are deeply discounted. I have still one, if someone's really fast on earning their extra class before this book goes old, the end of June. So the new extra class won't be out until probably late May, early June. So I'll be ordering that at that time. Do have caps, some boards if you're into the experimental, sorterless, and caps are only $10 with club logo, and shield your nose from the sun come the summer. Also, 2 non-book table items, if I can sneak in here. The university and the state of Utah are sponsoring a declutter day, is what they're calling it. It will be Friday, 19th of April, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, on the Guardsman Way parking lot. And so it's stuff you want to donate, medical disposal, recycle, and shredding. And their website has a whole long list of stuff they do not accept. So think ammunition, explosives, liquids, etc. Also, the day after, there is a free swap at the First Unitarian Church on 1300 East, 6 South. It starts at 10, goes until 1, and it's bring what you don't want, take what you find useful. There are exceptions, no big furniture. If you can't carry it, don't bring it, because we don't have any way to move it either. So that's all I have. Turn back.
And don't anybody let my wife know that there is a declutter going on. Okay, we have had a bunch of consternation over the parking issue here. Mel Parks, thankfully, has finally sorted it out for us. And this is the way it's going to go. The parking lot that we have been using, which is just east of this building, is going to go away. It could go at any time. They're going to tear it out and build a building. Therefore, Mel has set up authorization for us to park in the north parking lot just north of the Merrill Engineering Building. Okay? It's the
building with the big antenna tower on it.
That's right. It's the building with the tower on it, and there's even a tunnel that goes between that building and this one. Okay? Any questions?
We can still park across the street, right?
Until they take it away from us, we can.
Also,
The one that's across the street from us is going to be taken away because they're going to build a building in its place.
And you're talking about the one that's a little north of that.
Well, the one a little north of that is not authorized for us to park in.
I know.
Yeah. And when it's going to happen, you know, who knows? Mel?
Construction is scheduled for the 1st of May, but things around here at the university have habits of being delayed for weeks, months, and even years. So for right now, park there as long as it's available.
Okay, for those of you who are joining us online, Mel just indicated that the construction is due to begin at the beginning of May. So that means there's a likelihood that we won't have it next meeting. All right, let's see, what else? You betcha.
All right.
I like people that do announcements.
All right, cool. Hey, I just want to announce that this coming Thursday, the 18th, is Utah Shakeout Day. Various clubs are participating across the county. Go to the Salt Lake County Aries website for more information. That's slcoares.org. Thank you. Don't even know my own website. Anyway, there's going to be clubs from Sandy to Salt Lake and everywhere in between participating. We're going to do simplex. We're going to do repeaters. We're going to be doing the 220. We're going to be doing possibly WinLink and some other things. So definitely get involved. And then also for those of you outside Salt Lake County, I'm sure your other clubs are doing some things. So reach out to your club organizers and definitely participate this coming Thursday, which is the 18th. But again, check out the Salt Lake County Areas website. Thanks, Marvin. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's a long list of frequencies.
Okay, how many of you join us for the meeting before the meeting? Quite a handful. I wasn't able to make it this time. We meet at 5:30, right?
Yeah, we have some concepts about changing that.
Okay. Do you want to tell us? Yeah. I thought you would.
So the meeting before the meeting had 6 people tonight, or 5 people, I can't remember which, something like that. Last time we had a few more than that, and we have been meeting, and the website says we meet at the Village Inn on the corner of 4th and 9th East. Last month's meeting there was an absolute disaster, and that is being charitable. And so there was some discussion about, oh my God, we never want to come back here because VI is in bankruptcy and the manager was mean to us and it was awful. So tonight we gave them a second try and it was better, but not enough that we think that the community would like to return there. So we have 2 options, and we would like to throw them out and see if there is any input. So I'm going to throw them out, and if you wish to input, please do so after the meeting to me. And then we'll announce on the Sunday night information net, and we'll change the website up. So the first option that was suggested, and I won't throw anybody under the bus for who suggested this, but they suggested that on 21st South and 7th East is a lovely D's restaurant, which holds about the same fare as a Village Inn and has, you know, about the same cost point and everything else. Slightly better service than we're getting in the VI. Actually, lovely service compared to the VI. The other option is the Other Place restaurant, which is at 5th East and 3rd South. All of these sites have downsides. One, some people are going to say the 21st South 7th East location's a little far from here, and they don't have a separate meeting room area. The Other Place is fixing to close at some point. Mr. Costa sold the building, but the guy hasn't actually closed, paid him, and that may be as much as a year or more off. And so he's not closing or shutting down until he's actually cashed out. And so he's running his regular hours. So the downside of the other place is we will need to find another other place at some point in the future. But it is a step up in food and service for about the same price as the VI. So those are your options. Please weigh in either tonight or in the next day or so, and we will announce the consensus on the Sunday night information net and then change the website.
Thank you, Jerry. I have been to both of those restaurants. I think either one of them would be just fine. The one on 21st South is even farther away for me, but it's probably closer for some of you guys. So everything's a trade-off, right? Okay. We have been talking about getting some volunteers for Field Day for a few months now, and Field Day is going to be on top of us here pretty quick. After much prodding and coercion, we have a Field Day chairman, and that is Adam. Adam, raise your hand. And we expect Adam to do a great job, but there are two conditions. The first condition is we have to get some volunteers. He is not going to do this by himself, nor can he. That's the first condition. So, people, think about stepping up. The second condition is that we are not going to be abandoned by the people in our club who have done this for 100 years. They will still be there to show us what to do, and those are the two conditions. So, once again, we're looking for volunteers. Okay? Anything else before I turn the time over to Scott?
Maybe.
Yes, James.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I'll see about getting a volunteer sign-up sheet posted to the UARC Reflector so that people can sign up for that for sure. But I also wanted to remind people that I am doing technician and general classes for those that want to get into the hobby or would like to upgrade to general. So if you would like more information about my technician classes on Zoom, shoot me an email at KK7AVS. That's Kilo 7 Alpha Victor Sierra @gmail.com. And as well, we do hold general classes every Tuesday night on the Salt Lake Crossroads 2-meter repeater. That's 147.160 megahertz, positive 600 kilohertz offset, and a PL tone of 127.3 hertz. Again, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. So if you're studying for your general, feel free to go ahead and join. Oh yeah, as well. So you don't have to remember everything. Visit the Salt Lake Crossroads website at slcarc.com.
Committed Field Day volunteers, feel free to mob Adam after the meeting and not wait for the sign-up sheet because he's flighty and we may lose him if we don't get some volunteers.
If you would, just for everybody that can't hear, my email has been given out on the Sunday night information net. It's my call sign. It's KK7NJJ@gmail.com. If you are interested in volunteering for Field Day, please send an email so we can get on top of this.
The camera's microphone's on, so I can hear you.
Okay.
Got it. For everybody that hasn't been listening to the Sunday information net for the past couple of weeks, if you are interested in volunteering for Field Day, please send me an email. It's Kilo7NJJ@gmail.com. Sorry, that's KK7NJJ@gmail.com.
Good, Adam. Thank you. Anything else? Yes, Mel.
I guess I want to put my 2 cents worth in for the Utah VHF Society. First, I want to thank everybody who participated and came out and visited us at the swap meet last weekend. We had a very good turnout. We had almost 300 people there. And I want to thank all of the members of the VHF Society. If you're a member, I have the booklets here if you haven't received one yet. If you're not a member, we invite you to join if you'd like to. Membership fees for 1 year are $20. If you're a new ham and just got your license within the last 6 months, we're going to give you a half-price deal. You get 2 years of membership at half price. So that's a neat deal for new hams, and we want to encourage everybody to consider supporting the society. Just so you know, last year we spent $31,000 of your money that you paid us by your dues to support many of the repeaters that we had throughout the state of Utah, Idaho, and into Arizona. So thank you again, and if you are interested, we have little call signs that we're promoting that we sell for $7.50, and we have little nameplates that have your call sign on and the date you were licensed for $10, and all the proceeds from this go to the Utah VHF Society. I have to thank the University of Utah because they're letting us do the printing at cost, so we don't have an excess charge to pay for those. I've looked on other sites, and these run anywhere from $15 to $30, so it's a real good deal if you'd like to have something to recognize yourself and the neat call sign you have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mel. Okay, I'm going to turn the time over to my good friend Scott Rosenbusch. He's gonna share some. Well, I'll let him tell us.
Just put this on real quick.
Can I do that?
Yep.
That one's on mute.
Okay, is this working sufficiently? You guys hear me in the back? All right, very good. Would you go ahead and put it up? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you heard, I'm Scott Rosenbusch, K7HSR, and I'm a relatively new ham. Let me ask here in the crowd, how many of you have had your ticket for less than 2 years? 1, 2, 3, I make at least 4. So,
Possibly 5.
all right.
I don't need to count.
All right. There's a handful of us that I would still consider to be new hams. And I've been asked to talk a little bit about my journey as a new ham, some of the things I've seen, and I'm hoping that what I present to you tonight will offer some encouragement first for some of you new hams, but also for some of you more experienced hams as well. And I'm going to use some notes because I've written this out and I don't want to miss some things, so bear with me. I don't normally read from notes, so thank you for your patience. So what has this ride been like for the last 2 years? Well, my original motivation to get into ham radio was emergency communications. I had just gotten CERT certified, and it was obvious to me that communications had to be an important part of emergency response. So I actually joined UARC. I took a class with Morris Farmer, the former president of our club, and I got my ticket 2 years ago, June, right about a week before Field Day 2022. So I missed the rush of everybody who piled in during the pandemic. When everybody was stuck at home, I was doing other stuff, not ham radio, but I'm trying to catch up. Later, I joined Salt Lake Crossroads, I joined Aries, I joined ARRL and other clubs to get to know other hams and, frankly, to learn. The first thing I learned very quickly was that ham radio is both a service, as per the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, and a hobby. And there are some people who will argue, well, is it a service or is it a hobby? It's both. And you can lean one way into it or you can lean another way into it, but you have the opportunity for both. But there are so many rabbit holes. Goodness gracious, I had no idea there were so many ways to get lost in amateur radio. One of the first things I learned was the importance of Elmers. And in my opinion, it's one of the most important features of our hobby. Experienced radio operators sharing their knowledge, sharing their experience with less experienced radio operators, so we don't have to make the same mistakes they did. Okay? Now, many of you here have been Elmers, and thank you for that. I've been the beneficiary of 2 in this club alone and a couple of others as well. I'm going to share with you, and you older folks will recognize this reference, I'm going to share with you a Paul Harvey moment. Paul Harvey did a show, and he used to talk about the rest of the story. So when you get into this hobby, what your Elmer won't tell you is that amongst ham radio operators, there are some very strong opinions as to which brand of radio is best. You ever hear that? Anybody here have those opinions? It's so pervasive, I refer to it as being almost religion-like. And as I thought about that reference, it made even more sense to me. So it's not enough to like a particular brand of radio. Kind of like Christianity, it's not enough to believe in just one God. But there are other prophets to be followed, other sects, if you will. And they've broken off and call it DMR, call it D-Star, call it System Fusion, call it any number of other categories. And some people are religiously tied to those aspects of ham radio. So what I recommend is that you have more than one Elmer with more than one ham radio brand religious affiliation. Now, I'm going to tell you a funny story. As I was researching my first VHF, UHF radio, I talked to 2 of my Elmers who belong to this club. They both told me, don't buy that brand, and I'm not going to name it. Well, you know what happened? I bought that brand, and they won't let me forget it. By the way, it's a damn good radio. One more Paul Harvey moment. As a brand new ham, or as I was very, very early on in this game, I thought I would have one radio. I learned just how silly that was very, very quickly. I'm now a member of at least 3 of those prime ham radio brand religions. So let me tell you a little bit more about my journey. And my friend and one of my Elmers, Jerry, first loaned me an HT. And she was at my house, and we were out front on my porch, and she called up a fellow ham, and she said, "You near your radio? Turn it on, turn it to this frequency," and I had my first QSO from my front porch. A little later, she loaned me a mobile form VHF, UHF radio, and then she gave me a hand-me-down J-Paul, which is still on my roof. Another Elmer gave me an HF radio and amplifier. A power supply, not an amplifier, a power supply. He did warn me. He said, "I don't know the provenance of this radio and this power supply. I don't know if they work. They're yours. Take them home. If they work, great. If not, let me know." Well, they didn't work. So he asked around, and I told him it didn't work, and he actually asked around other hams in his realm, and somebody in his group gave me a Yaesu 857. Now, that model may not mean a lot to some of you, But if you look online today, the 857 is going for anywhere from $700 to $800. It's been out of production for 20 years, but it's a damn good radio. Jerry again came through and loaned me a G5 RV Junior. We strung it up between two trees in my front yard, and I was on HF. Another Elmer introduced me to FT8. Oh boy, what a rabbit hole that was. I never expected to spend so much time on FT8. But in less than 2 years, I have over 5,000 contacts in my log and over 120 countries. Most of them on a donated radio, a loaned antenna, and a simple dipole strung between two trees, barefoot. For those of you who are new, less than 100 watts. Now, to be fair, my Elmers and other people have told me that I have been very, very lucky in this hobby. My QTH is here. That other dot on the map is Ensign Peak, about 2 miles west of my house. And I'm at about the same elevation as Ensign Peak. So I'm about 1,000 feet above the valley floor. You can see the Natural History Museum, the U of U is over here. I-15 goes right up the middle. So you get a sense of where I'm located. I didn't buy the house because of ham radio. I bought that house 12, 13 years ago. But it's a great location. And I will admit, I'm damn lucky to have found this hobby from that location. And again, all of those contacts with used or hand-me-down equipment and less than 100 watts.
A G5 RV Junior antenna.
I have one that works.
Now, remember that broken radio I told you about? So I had it sitting in my shack, just collecting dust. And the Elmer who gave it to me happened to be talking to a relatively new ham on the west side of Salt Lake on the intertie. And he said to Ray Smith, he said, "Ray, do you know Scott Rosenbush?" And he said, "No." He said, "Well, he has this 757, Yaesu 757 that doesn't work. He can probably get it to you, and maybe you can do something with it." Well, to make a long story short, I spoke with Ray, went over his house, brought him the radio. Don't you know, he got the radio to work, and a friend helped him get the power supply to work. And from that same Elmer, another Salt Lake Valley ham is now on HF, and I hear Ray regularly on the 10-meter net each week. Somebody else introduced me to POTA. Again, never ever expected to spend so much time. For those of you who are not familiar, POTA is Parks on the Air, where people go out with their radios to parks, and people like us who may be sitting at home or somewhere else on the radio hunt those people in the parks, and we have our QSOs. They're short QSOs, but they are, well, they're not all verbal. They're sometimes FT8. And on that rabbit hole, I've got over 1,400 contacts already. Just because there's not enough rabbit holes in this world, I'm now trying to learn CW. CQ, anybody? I want to say, in my experience, in my short time as a ham radio operator, Elmering works. And it works really, really well. Here's the best part. You don't have to be an expert in all things ham radio to be an Elmer. I was actually introduced to a couple of hams that were newer than me who needed help, and I was able to help them with their radios. I am far from an expert. I'm still learning. You just need to know something that a less experienced ham doesn't yet know, and be willing to share it with them. So thank you to the members of the club and others who serve as Elmers. From one ham, and I'll speak for others, thank you. It's invaluable. And yes, I know we ask some stupid questions sometimes. You may have also when you were new at the game. And if you're new at ham radio, or if you're experienced but you want to learn something new, go down one of those other rabbit holes that you haven't been down yet, ask around. You might be surprised that there may be somebody right in this room or in this club or in a nearby club who has experience in that area that you're trying to learn and help you from making the same mistakes they did. The best part about this hobby is you just have to do it. Just get on the air. If you're afraid of the mic, get on digital modes, get on FT8. If you're not, if the best way to get over mic fright is just key up. If you tell people you're new at it, they'll help you. Most people will anyway. And that's the beautiful thing about this hobby. Do you have any questions? That's all I have. Come on, it wasn't that good. Yes, sir.
What has been your best experience on the radio?
My best experience on the radio. You know, probably the first time or two that I had a DX contact on FT8. I went running upstairs and I couldn't wait to tell my wife. I just logged Australia. She's like, really? I just logged Ukraine. Really? And then they go out to these islands in the Atlantic and the Pacific that you need an atlas or Google to figure out where they're located. Hitting those are less exciting for me because I don't know them. Okay? But I think those first few DX contacts for me were the most memorable. But it's always learning. So there's always something more to learn. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So as someone who is just barely stepping into this hobby, I'm unfamiliar with the terminology elder or
Elmer.
sorry.
Elmer is a mentor. And I apologize. I should have said that. And Elmer in ham speak is a mentor.
Okay, gotcha.
Somebody who's willing to share with you their experience or help you along your way.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry?
So, you added me as one of your elders. Brett Sutherland was the other one from the club. So Brett's brilliant. What advice would you give Elmers? Like, where did Brett and I screw up? What could we have done better? And what advice would you give to, there's a lot of people in this club that are very experienced. And so we take for granted that you know things or you don't know things. What would you tell us as experienced people that would help us to have helped Elmer you better and cause you to adopt, of course, our religion as opposed to these schisms that you have taken?
I understand the religious fervor for radio brands. I've come to recognize it. I just don't buy into it. And I really don't have a criticism for you or Brent. Of course, what you did is you set the hook when you lent me those radios and allowed me to get on the air and listen. And you could not have made it easier for me to fall down all of these rabbit holes all at once. The beauty, though, and the benefit of having different Elmers, and again, I don't mean this in any way as a criticism, is your experience is different from Brett's, is different from Craig's, is different from Joe's and other people that I talk to, and so each of you has your own expertise, and you know, ham radio brand religion aside, I can, you know, if I want to talk to somebody about, you know, mesh networks, it's probably not Brett, okay? But if I want to talk to him about amplifiers, he's my go-to guy, or at least my first stop. For young people, newer, less experienced ham people who are, or even experienced people who want to learn more, again, I would suggest reach out. Talk to people before the meeting, talk to people after the meeting. I belong to, gosh, at least a half a dozen different groups on Facebook, and in my opinion, Facebook is not the first place to go. You'll get information that may or may not be accurate. You'll get information which is opinion but offered as fact. Call me old school, but I'd rather deal face to face with somebody and know who I'm talking to and have a level of trust that's been earned over some period of time. You don't get that from social media. Now, if somebody asks a question, you know, anybody have any experience with XYZ piece of equipment, and you do, and say, yeah, it worked for me, no, it didn't work for me, or, you know, I like this but didn't like that, that's different. That's opinion. But for newbies, ask for help. For people who are experienced, you saw the people who raised their hand who are hams for 2 years or less. Introduce yourself. Tell them what you're into. Tell them what your favorite parts of the hobby are, and see if they want any help in that area. They'll appreciate it. Yes, sir. Question? Good for you. Okay, yes, sir.
What's your favorite or rarest contact on FTA? Well, say like the best one you've ever made. Do you have a favorite one?
No, I don't. I've gotten some of those DX islands, but again, I don't consider them my favorites because they're rare and they only get activated every 5 or 10 years. That I'm not a DXer yet, so I'm not down that rabbit hole far enough for that to be my favorite.
I mean, working FTA, if you work something, you know, not like a DX expedition, but some little island or anything that you normally don't. For example, for me, I worked Pitcairn Island,
Mm-hmm.
which was super for me because, you know, that to me that's super rare, you know, and so to me that's my rarest contact, you know, and I've worked a lot of expeditions and things like that, you know, but that stands out for me.
Yeah, I don't have a favorite. Again, the most memorable was like my first 1 or 2, and I think Australia was one of those, just because it was the first.
Yeah.
The first or second DX contact for me. But I don't have a favorite DX QSO, no. I was trying to work Afghanistan the other night. I saw them on Grid Tracker on FTA.
Well, you got something to look forward to then.
Oh, I do. No, again, I've only got about 120 countries, so I've only got about, 250 to go, or over 200 to go, which is a little weird because there's only 185 countries in the UN, but there's over 350 DX contacts in the ham world. So from here, Alaska and Hawaii are considered DX.
I have a question. Interesting comment. I had an interesting Elmer that after I got my license, he gave me an old rig called a National NC3. And he made me make a promise to him that I would join his special club, and it's called the Elmer Club. And part of the deal with this club is after you've had the radio for 6 months, you have to give it to a new ham. And so far, we have 35 people who are part of this club, and we all keep in touch with each other. And it's a fun, informal group that we've been passing this old radio around to new hams. It's an old vacuum tube radio, but we all make our first contacts on that radio. And that's a neat way. Even if you got a brand new radio and you give it to a ham, have them start your own informal Elmer Club.
No, that's a great story. Thank you. There was another. Yes, David. Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking, you're talking about all these other countries, like Afghanistan and all that stuff. Did you use a Yagi antenna?
No, it's a simple dipole strung between two trees in the front of my house. It's a G5RV Junior dipole.
Wow.
So it's 53 feet across and about 20 feet of ladder line. That's it. And I've got 100.
Abused antenna prior to going up.
Take it from the owner. If she says it was abused, I believe her. Under 100. Under 100. Usually domestic, I run 50 watts. And when I'm trying to hit an international contact, I'll crank it up to 70.
Oh, with skip.
But I don't even run at 100 watts normally. Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Your comment about the conflicting Elmers on which radio had me thinking it was going to be each was going to name the other's brand rather than a single brand. But a related, I guess, as you're referring to it, rabbit hole, I think is probably the old dial knob versus menu radio. You want to go there?
You know, I would, but I don't have any experience with vacuum tube radios. So I really can't comment. The one thing I will say is it's clear that ham radio operators like using equipment that is at least as old as they are. Up here and then we'll come back. Yes.
I'm just wondering, so when contacting all of these countries, did you ever run into some kind of language barrier?
On FT8, it's all digital, so it's nonverbal. So it's computer to radio over the air, radio to computer. So it's the QSO is actually computer driven. There's no verbal communication on FT8, so there's no language barrier. There's no issue there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what band have you been most successful making the largest number of contacts?
Domestically, 20 meters, and particularly on parks on the air, most of the activators, that is people going out to the parks, seem to be on 20 meters more than the other. I mean, I've got 10 and 40 meter contacts in all categories.
Okay, so for distance, what?
For distance, I'd say probably, just based on the numbers alone, I'd probably say 20 meters. I can, on voice, on single sideband, I can come pretty close to the East Coast with 50 watts. Single sideband. Sean.
Hey, Scott, I just got one quick question.
As a new ham, how beneficial was the Sunday night information net with the roundtable for you? You just have to do a plug.
I listened to it once.
That's it?
Sorry. Again, I belong to 3 or 4 local clubs, so I get my information from multiple sources. Sunday night just doesn't work for me. I'm usually on nets on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and And oh, by the way, I have a life. No. This is a joke. This is sort of a joke, but it's also very, very important. Okay? While I happen to be retired, ham radio is not my life. I love ham radio. I get a lot of enjoyment out of my time that I spend with and on the radio. Okay? I've met a lot of wonderful people, as my second to last slideshow, met a lot of wonderful people in ham radio. But I belong to Rotary, and I'm involved in politics, and I've got a wife, and we've got a life. So ham radio is not the only thing that I do with my time. And that's important. There is work-life, radio-life balance.
Just a hobby.
It can be a hobby, but it can also be something that takes over your life if you let it. If you're married, or if you want to be married, make sure you spend some time outside of ham radio, unless your spouse loves radio as much as you do. Okay? And if that's the case, God bless you. God bless you. Okay? In my case, my wife is not interested in ham radio, and I'm not interested in knitting. She has her hobbies, I have my hobbies, but we make time for each other. I just wanted to make that point. Anybody else? Yes?
I just wanted to comment on the language barrier. There's a lot of foreign hams, they want to talk to us. And so they will learn just enough English words to make the contact.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They don't really know the language, they know how to make the contact. So,
Well, and the same thing long before sideband, over CW, the international language is English.
yeah.
So the first digital mode, CW, Morse code. And that's the next rabbit hole for me. Yes, Bruce?
I started you could call it a DX contact on 20-meter with Japan. And we wound up on Zoom.
There you go.
So we can do the face to face.
Good for you.
Interesting.
Good for you. I actually belong to a ham radio club, which is international in membership, and we meet on Zoom on Sunday afternoons.
I do have to protect my good friend, Mr. Sutherland, because there is an inaccuracy due to memory, I'm sure, on this. We did not approve of the first radio he wanted to buy, not because of its brand. That was the third reason. It was because he wanted to buy a radio he found on eBay from some ham in Idaho that didn't publish his call sign in the ad, and it was an old Kenwood. And Brett and I are not big fans of Kenwood, but Kenwood makes fine radio. It was buying a radio unseen, untested, and as a brilliant Elmer, Mr. Sutherland was correct, and when he told Scott not to buy that radio, Scott called me up and said, "What do you think?" Which is called Elmer shopping. And I said, "Don't buy that radio." But he bought that radio, and then Brett and I had to find somebody who had that radio to help program it. And we found that in the Davis Club.
It's the TMV 71A. It's a great radio.
Oh, I love it.
There you go. Thank you, Linda.
Well, for a blind person, it's wonderful. It talks and everything.
Yes, it does.
Elmer Fudd.
You know what? I didn't get a picture of Elmer Fudd. That would have been a great idea. Sorry about that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So, as a new ham that just got a small walkie-talkie radio, I'm just wondering, how exactly do you get started in these digital modes of communication like FT8?
FT8 is generally done on HF, And I don't know if it can be done on UHF, VHF. Anybody here know? Yes, it can.
I've worked FT8 on 2 meters.
Okay, so what you would need is you would need a sound card, which your HT probably doesn't have. And when I say sound card, there are a number of different products on the market. One is called DigiRig. One is called, what's the one out of Oregon?
I don't know.
Signalink. I like DigiRig because they're smaller and less adjustments. Signalink is the other one that's most common. And according to N7JZU, Gary here, you can do FT8 on your on the 2 meter band on your HT.
I've had both.
Both?
Signalink and DigiRig. I like the DigiRig a lot better.
Yeah, and you're probably not going to do well. Your HT's probably not your radio port. It's probably
But it depends on your radio. If you got like a Icon 7300, you don't need a DigiRig.
No, but he's got an HT.
Yeah.
But also, there's your owner, who just told us FT8 120 countries in less than 18 months. So.
But let's not build expectations. He's not going to do that with a rubber duck.
Right.
Antenna.
So what I'm saying is go see
Okay.
the person who did it and say, how do you do that?
And I'm happy to talk to you about it. Okay, sir.
Yeah. I gotta wonder, like these sound cards, if they are compatible with all radios, with all transceivers. The Signalink has internal jumpers that make it compatible. What you usually need to buy, though, is a special cable from Signalink to connect it to your radio, because each radio has different connections on the back. Well, so you could use see, I got something here right there. I need to ask, you guys or James.
Well, why don't we talk about it later? We can talk about what you've got specifically, because I don't want to take the time from the group, but we can talk about it. Anybody else? You've all been very gracious in allowing me to come before you. I hope I've shared some things about being a no-ham and my passion for it. It is a lot of fun. It's a great hobby. You meet some wonderful people. And thank you for being part of that group. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Is it on?
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Scott. That was great. Okay, I want to put this to bed. Everybody knows that real radios glow in the dark. So, tube radios forever. I think I'll get a license plate that says that. I actually have a station that's entirely home built by me. Other than that, I think the best radio is the one you have at the time. Okay, enough said. All right, well, let's see. Our next meeting is May 9th, and luckily for us, it's going to be right here, at least unless something else traumatic happens. Yeah, Linda's chuckling because we have gone through this a number of times, haven't we, Linda? Yeah, okay. Go home, be safe. Oh, prizes. Everybody have their ticket? Okay. How many prizes do we have? 7 tickets, Linda. Linda is our official ticket picker. Because she can't read it.
They're not in Braille. 4, did you say?
7. Okay, this is first come, first served. The prizes are over here. Got them?
Well, wait, here's one that is all folded up.
Yeah, it was folded weird. It reminds me of the way I fold my money.
Okay, Will Watkins. All right. See, it pays to come. Okay, C. Ryan. N7MFQ. K7HSR. K0. Got it right this time. Oh no, it's KG7GOW, is that right? That's Rick. Okay. NM7P, Mel. Last one. Joe, AF7JC. There we go. All right. Thanks, everybody.